why should I learn multi-cloud, right? And then I'm going to give you a few examples in here. I'm going to bring you some articles from the market so that you can do your own research as well. You can go there and read the full article and take your own conclusions, right? The first thing is, as I told you, multi-cloud destiny is a thing, right? As you can see, this article from Forbes shows that 90% of the companies have a multi-cloud destiny, right? And then this article discusses on a few ways to maintain analytics and the proper ways that you can have a good analytics in place so that you can manage those multi-cloud environments, right? But the thing that I want to catch your attention in here is 90% of the companies have a multi-cloud destiny, right? So that's why I told you in the beginning that there's not an option anymore if you are going to give a chance to DevOps or not. It is to multi-cloud and DevOps or not. It is already a destiny, right? So uh, whether either if you say, hey, I'm not going to be part of that, that's okay. The companies are going to be using it, and then the only thing that's going to happen is that you're not going to be part of that. Okay, period. But that is not changing anything at all, right? So you should decide if you're going to be part of that or not. And you see clearly that on Forbes, on this article. You can go through that later on if you want. Just search for this title, and then you're going to find this article on Forbes. And the other one is, not you maybe you're thinking, hey, but are there companies using a multi-cloud approach, right? So there are so many companies using a multi-cloud approach right now, from small medium up to large enterprises like banks, right? So on this article in here, this article explains why banks are taking a multi-cloud approach, right? So you see big financial organizations like banks are taking a multi-cloud approach, right? So that's something that is not going away anymore. It is there to stay, okay? And you can keep on researching, and then you're gonna find all these articles saying, "Hey, the multi-cloud is future, or the future is multi-cloud." The idea that your cloud strategy can rely solely on one service provider is outdated, right? So if you are, working in a company that is relying solely in one cloud provider, um, it's considered outdated for the market nowadays, right? Because your company or your C-level executive is not using the best of each cloud provider. It's not, using those benefits that I just mentioned here, right? And then, do you want to be part of an outdated company or initiative? It doesn't make sense. Okay, and then it's gonna explain you a few reasons behind using multi-cloud. But my idea in here is not convince you, because data is data, right? My only idea in here is showing you what is there, what is already happening, so that you can decide whether you're going to be part of that or not, right? So there are so many people, so many IT professionals already taking advantage of that, right? Making multiple six-figure salaries, working with those things, and then you should consider whether you should go and invest on that or not, right? And another good indicator for you is when the cloud providers start putting multi-cloud on their message, right? So you can see that more and more the cloud providers are investing in multi-cloud, right? So that's crazy, because you might think, hey, but why a cloud provider A would invest in cloud provider B? Are they not competitors, right? Maybe you could be wondering, and that's true. But they saw that the multi-cloud is a inevitable trend, that they cannot go against it. So they started collaborating with each other to help the companies to put in place a good multi-cloud strategy, or put in place a good multi-cloud reference architecture, right? So That is just one of the examples in here that I brought to you from Azure documentation. This is from Microsoft Azure documentation, right? This is the multi-cloud reference architecture from Microsoft Azure to auto cloud infrastructure, right? So there are so many companies, airline companies, the one that I led the migration is leveraging on this multi-cloud reference architecture, by the way, right? There are so many companies, from banking industry, from telecommunication industry, using this reference architecture between Microsoft Azure and our cloud infrastructure. And that is just one example, right? There are so many other examples of reference architectures between AWS and Google Cloud and many more, right? Also, and in fact, we do have this reference architecture. We actually have a project, a real world project on the MultiCloud Bootcamp that uses this reference architecture, right? In a real world scenario that you can go there and implement this architecture in a hands-on way, right? Not only that, we have other projects with reference architectures on AWS, Google Cloud Platform, which are awesome projects, right? Using architectures that are being used by big companies around the world, right? So that's the beauty of it. So whenever you see, big tech companies collaborating between them to deliver some sort of view, it is a very good indicator. That's something that you should invest in, and that is one of the examples in here. That is when you see the multi-cloud reference architecture between Microsoft Azure and other cloud infrastructure, right? And then question that I have to you is, if you are engaged in a project, or you know you land in an interview and they ask you, hey, which are the reference architectures that you know to deploy a multi-cloud architecture or multi-cloud environment using Microsoft Azure and our cloud infrastructure, right? And then if you don't have any cloud computing knowledge, you're going to be lost. And then secondly, if you decided to invest in just one cloud provider, you're going to be lost again, because you wouldn't have the multi-cloud view or the multi-cloud knowledge, right? So that's why it is so important for you to understand all of that, because it's going to open up a huge, I would say, a huge number of opportunities for you on the cloud market, right? So that is one of the reasons that the students of the MultiCloud Bootcamp, they land six-figure cloud jobs very, very quickly, because the market is desperately looking for people that can understand not only isolated one cloud provider, or understanding how to use virtual machines in the cloud, but understanding the big picture and how we can use multi-cloud to solve business problems, right? So that's what the companies are looking for on the IT professional, right?